Hello, fourth graders. This is Miss Frost. I'm here to teach you some science this week. We're going to be focusing on a type of force and motion that you use in your everyday life called friction. So first, let's remind ourselves what the word force and the word motion mean. When you think of the word force, I want you to think about my picture I put on the screen. What is the force that's happening in my picture? Well, what's happening is that the foot is kicking the soccer ball. The definition of force is the energy it takes to do work. Whenever you push or pull on an object, it takes energy to get that object to move. So the force here is kicking that soccer ball because it's the energy that's going from your foot to the ball that's going to cause the ball to move. Now I want you to think about what you know about the word motion. Which part of my picture is showing motion? The soccer ball is showing motion because it's moving from one place to another. The definition of motion is the change in position of an object whenever a force is applied. The soccer ball is showing motion because it changed positions, meaning it started on the ground and now it's up in the air, and a force was applied, the force being the foot that's kicking the soccer ball. So since it moved when a force was applied when the foot kicked the ball, it's showing motion. Two of the most basic type of forces are push and pull. We should already know what these mean, but push is when a person applies force and the object is moving away from them. And a pull would be when somebody applies force and it's moving towards them. So pull, it's moving towards, push is moving away from them. Another type of force we have is gravity. And gravity is a force that brings an object toward Earth. When I think of gravity, I always picture in my head a tree. And on my tree is an apple. When that apple falls off the tree, it's going to go down to the ground. And it's going to fall until it is now on the ground. This is happening because of gravity. Because Earth is represented by the ground, when gravity is pulling on that object, it's pulling it down towards Earth until it can't go any further once it hits the ground. Now, the type of force that we're going to be talking about is friction. Now, friction's a little bit different because it's not causing something to move. It's actually causing an object to stop or slow down. Now, friction is happening when objects are rubbing or touching each other. Let's think back to our soccer example. Once we applied the force, the ball is moving, and now the ball is in motion. Now we're going to pretend the green line is the grass, and here's my soccer ball. Now my soccer ball is in motion, it's moving. As it rolls across the grass, I want you to think about what would happen. Is the soccer ball going to get faster and faster and faster as it rolls across the grass? Or is it going to slow down and eventually stop as it rolls across the grass? So right when we kick it, it's going really fast. And then as it's going across the grass, it's eventually going to slow down and stop. And this is happening because of friction. When our ball first started moving, that force was applied and it went really fast. But as it rubs against the grass is slowing down the soccer ball and eventually going to make it stop. That ball's not going to keep going on and on forever because of friction, because as it rubs against another surface, rubbing against grass, it's slowing down a little bit at a time until it eventually comes to a complete stop. Now let's say we're going to put my ball on two different ramps. One of the ramps is going to be covered in carpet, and the other ramp will be covered in ice. Now let's think about the physical properties of each of these surfaces. Carpet is a little bit bumpy. I know when I look at carpet, you can see each of those little pieces of fabric or string kind of sticking up and causing it to be a little bit bumpy. And ice is very slick. It's a little bit wet and very hard, but there's not a lot of bumps in it. It's pretty smooth when you feel it with your hands. So let's say we let go of our balls at the top of each ramp. The ramps are the exact same except one is covered in carpet and one is covered in ice. Where do you think the ball will land for each one? Will the ball go further when it's on carpet or further when it's on ice? So let's think about carpet first. Here's our ball at the top. When we let go, it's going to go down the ramp, and it's hitting each of these small pieces of string or yarn that make up the carpet. Kind of like grass, it's going to slow down and stop. Now let's think about ice. It's very slick. There's not a lot to stop my ball from moving. So when I let go of my ball on the ice ramp, it's going to keep picking up speed and go pretty far before it eventually stops. This is due to the amount of friction on each ramp. The carpet ramp has a lot more friction. There's a lot more rubbing together to make that ball stop right here. But my ice does not have as much friction. There's not as much rubbing against my ball, so the ball is going to go really fast and pretty far because there's not a lot there to stop it. So the carpet will have more friction, and the ice will have less friction compared to the carpet. When our object is rolling down a surface with more friction, it's going to stop sooner and it's going to go slower, as in the carpet. But when our object is rolling on a surface with less friction, like the ice, it's going to go faster and it's going to travel longer before it eventually stops. So to wrap it up, friction, the definition is a force that slows or stops motion between two objects that rub together. So whenever two objects are rubbing together, they're eventually going to slow down or stop because of friction on those objects. Just like our ball on the carpet, or the grass, or even the ice rubbed against a different surface, and then eventually it slowed down and stopped. Some surfaces will have more friction, and some surfaces will have less friction. But whenever two objects rub together, there is some sort of friction. You can even test this right now on your own by rubbing your hands together. When you rub your hands together, you'll be able to feel them touching each other. And if you push really hard on each hand, you'll be able to see that it's a little bit harder to rub them together. If you just lightly pass them by one another, there's less friction, and then it's easier to rub back and forth. So that's an example of friction using your own body. So remember, friction is a force that slows or stops motion when two objects rub together.